Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Canada Today Youth Edition. I'm your host, Brother Muhammad Maxwell Hassan. You're probably looking at this right now and saying, what happened? What's going on with this background here? MashaAllah, with this whole pandemic, life has turned things upside down, up and around. And so we're in lockdown. So for the time being, at least for the next foreseeable future, we're going to do things a little remotely, but hey, that doesn't stop us from moving things forward. And so with us today, we got two very special guests talking about a very particular topic. And this topic is something that may be on your minds once in a while. You know, when it comes to your future, your career, your aspirations, there's typically two ways you can go about it. One is the business route where you see those entrepreneurs, you see those shows like Shark Tank, you say, I'm going to make my empire in the business world and make it big. On the other side, you may be saying to yourself, you know what, I'd rather go in the nonprofit world. I might go into humanitarian causes. And that's what my heart is all about. That's my calling. And you don't know what's the difference between the two. How do you know where to choose? Where do you go? But with us here today, we got two very special guests that's going to shed light on this topic to talk about things from a business side and talking about things from a nonprofit side. So for us talking through the business side and the business lens, we got brother Safeer Qureshi, mashallah, who's rejoining us again as a previous guest. And so he wasn't phenomenal then. He's phenomenal now. He's a serial entrepreneur who helps and invests in business growth and development both locally and internationally. His career at the age of 14 in 2007, it started that time where he started a graphic design firm called Safari Graphics with an X. And 4 years later, the firm transformed into a multimedia production firm by the name of SPG Media and was named one of the best video production company in Toronto. And he won that award by the IIFFT in 2019. And in 2020 for the best video production company in North America. So we got one in Toronto in 2019, and we got one in North America, mashallah, in 2020. Safeer has since branched out into many more businesses, joining, growing, and selling companies in multiple industries, including PR, automotive, AI, biotech, and much more. Mashallah, brother Safeer is a, valuable resource talking about things in the business world, and it's awesome to have you with us here today. With us here as well, we got another amazing co-guest. Her name is Sister Wajiha Suboor. Sister Wajiha is a storyteller that helps companies connect with the right audience through well-written content shared on social platforms. She worked in many sectors, including business to business and startups, and currently she's applying her skills in the nonprofit world and loving every minute of it. So mashallah, here she is from the business world, but now she's going to the nonprofit world. What's going on here? What's the situation? We're going to unpack that. And mashallah, with that, thank you, Sister Wajiha, for joining us here today as well. Now, typically for this show, I always like to kind of get a little sense of where the guests come from, get a little taste of your background, your little story. So ladies first, Sister Wajiha, if I can kindly ask you to share with the viewers, what is your story in terms of getting into the nonprofit world? And correct me if I'm wrong, but are you currently not in Islamic relief? Is that not the case? And if so, please enlighten us as to how you got involved in this nonprofit world.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Appreciate that. And to be honest, how I got involved in nonprofit is not a big secret. There's no, there's nothing complicated about it. It's just, you happen to be in the right moment at the right time. But I know I was looking for opportunity. I'd been working in business to business for a number of years. And before that, I'd been working in the startup sector. And I was looking for opportunities that, like Brother Muhammad said, that would help give back to the world and something a little bit more direct, right? So once I was, I gained all the knowledge that I felt that I had in business to business and startup sector, looking to, expand my reach a little bit. And every sector is different. So I wanted to see, what I can do in nonprofit and in charity sector, and especially, and also like, be able to, give back to the world with that kind of line of work. So, it just was a matter of luck. I started applying to different positions, and Summit really happened to be looking for people with my skills, and I applied. And with all the experience that I had gained in business and in startups, I, apparently was a good fit, and I was here I am.
All right, mashallah. So there are no coincidences, I suppose, right? That's amazing. So that you just kind of was in the right place at the right time, and here you are, Paula. So we're going to unpack that a bit more in terms of the nonprofit world, and especially now that you kind of had your foot in two different sides, I think you're going to be able to provide a more balanced approach and perspective, which I think will be very useful for those who were in on one side and versus the other. Mashallah, amazing, amazing. Glad to hear that everything worked out. Now, Brother Safeer, mashallah, I know your story is quite inspiring. If you want to just maybe a little taste for those who, if this is the first time they've seen you and they know about SPG Media, could you give us a little sense of your entrepreneurial journey? How did you get involved in business as a starting point?
By accident. I know you just said there are no accidents, but that's what happened. When I was 14 years old, I saw all these kids that were 16, 17 getting jobs, and I asked my parents, is this something that I can do as well? And, brown parents, Desi parents, even Arab parents, they're like, you're out of your mind, focus on your studies, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know what? Okay, fine. Just to make some extra money, I'm going to start fixing phones on the side. I've been using Photoshop for a very long time. Even at the age of 14, I was using it since I was about 12. I'm going to start doing some graphic designing. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I did a lot of stuff during high school. And sometimes a lot of people ask me, did it interfere with your studies? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It really is about finding that right balance. That's pretty much my journey.
MashaAllah. So I guess, I don't know, there's destiny, I suppose. So whether it's an accident or not, if it's planned, whatever it is, I mean, whatever is written for you is written for you. And subhanAllah, you just fell into the world of graphic design, and one thing led to another, and here you are. So let me continue on, Brother Safeer, on your end now. When it comes to business is such it's a tricky word, especially when people, when they think of the word money. For some folks, it evokes all these emotions. On the one side, you might have people that say it's a filthy, dirty word. I don't know, man, money, it's absolute power. What is it? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's that side of things. And, all this money. On the other side, people are saying, oh, money is just a tool that you use to grow and do all of these amazing things. Nothing gets done without money. And there's so many different ways of looking at business and money in particular. What would you say, based on your experience, what kind of a person is meant to be in the world of business, in your opinion? What would you say? What kind of person is meant to be in that world?
It's a good point that you bring up, that you're saying that, money corrupts. I think of money, and I think most successful entrepreneurs think of money as a tool. Right? It's just like a gun. You can use it to protect people, for safety. You can also use it for bad intention, and you can use it to harm people. It really depends. Most people that are in business just for money, they get stuck in that realm and they stay there, and a lot of them don't end up succeeding. Right? It's not just about the money when it comes to business. So, for example, like I said, I started with fixing phones, then I moved on to graphic design, and then I even moved on to that, and we moved on to video production. And even in video production, I let the business guide me. I let the passion guide me. It all really depends on what you're in business for, and what your ultimate goal is. I believe last time I told you, when I was on this show as well, that it should be always secondary. It should be a result. It should be a byproduct, not your main goal. And I think that people who are saying that, money corrupts, and yeah, there's absolute truth to that, but it really depends on not, it doesn't really corrupt. There's a saying in business, it amplifies. So if you're an evil person, it's going to amplify your evil. If you're a good person, you can still take that money and start a not-for-profit, a charity, etc. So it really, again, like I said, it's a tool, not really evil. But if you are evil, that's what it's going to amplify.
Smaller, so it's not inherently a problem. It's more so what it amplifies. It just gives out more of what it could be in the potential. Mashallah, that's good. Yeah. So it's how you use it as opposed to looking at it and just saying, oh, it's inherently a problem. All right, fair enough. So there's that side of things. Sister Wajiha, if I can ask you, when it comes to, do you have any general observations about the way, particularly Muslim youth, and how they look at the non-profit world? And maybe if you even want to touch a little bit on that, the question we spoke about earlier, in terms of what kind of a person would go into the nonprofit sector, what would you say to that? So, what are your observations, and what are some types of people that you feel would be a phenomenal fit in the nonprofit sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel there's two kinds of categories when it comes to youth and how they approach nonprofits. There's the people that completely bypass it, right? It's not on their radar at all. They just want to get the good opportunities, the high-paying jobs, the corner office, right? That's what their goal in life is, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be comfortable in life. And then there's the other people who get involved in nonprofits from a very early age, like at the current company that I work for, I see kids as young as in high school, even younger, come out to our events as volunteers. And part of it is like, because it's a big part of their values in their family, right? Like charity and giving back to the community. So the parents bring the kids, and they're all involved in community work and social work. So I think there's two approaches to youth who get involved in the nonprofit and charity sector, but I still see that people see charity and nonprofit as a stepping stone to something bigger, not something that they can, grow and develop in, which is not the case at all. There's so many different roles that can be played in nonprofits, and there's so many. It's just like any other business, right? And there's all the opportunities are there, and it's not limiting at all, from what I find.
So can we unpack that a little bit more? What is it? Why do they have that limiting belief as, oh, this is a stepping stone towards something bigger, or this is not the be all end all? The goal is not the charity or the nonprofit itself. This is gonna lead me to what? How come? Like, in your opinion, why is that the case?
I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't know what the case is. I just is from what I see, like the youth around me. That's what their conversations are happening, and it just seems to be like, oh, nonprofit. Yeah, it's a good way to get experience, but you don't want to end up there 5 years down the line. It's a way to get experience and then move on to something better. But I think nonprofits offer a lot of great experiences, great learning, and great opportunities for the right people.
Interesting. Brother Safeer, do you want to jump in on this part? Could it be, I'm just thinking out loud here, could it be that maybe, yeah, you have something to, yeah.
I do actually, and I know exactly why. From a very young age, we're actually taught that money is evil and that money is bad. Even in Islam, if you have money, you should be just donating it. And you know what? I agree. You should be donating it. And they say, and you should take care of the poor. Islam teaches us all that, but Islam doesn't say don't make money, right? You want to donate to charities? Go ahead. Donate all your money to charities, but make $1 million. If you look at, they say, oh, Fir'aun had a lot of money. You know who else had a lot of money? Uthman bin Affan. Right? He was a Sahaba, closest to the Prophet. Umar ibn Khattab, they all had money, right? There's nothing in Islam that says that, you shouldn't be making money. Donate all your money. Be a billionaire and donate all your money. Sure, right? Like I said before, it kind of also gets to me when people say, yeah, you know what? This person has money. Automatically they assume, oh, maybe he earned it in the wrong way or in the haram way or whatever it is, no matter what industry they might be in. From a very, very young age, we are taught that. And it's kind of sad to even say that it's mainly taught by people who are a lot of those people who are insecure, who feel like they want to get to that level. And this is just, a lot of people get upset when I say this, but the truth is that it does cause a lot of insecurity. And then people say, okay, no, it's evil. It's this, it's that. It's one or the other. You have to choose between money or heaven, right? And I don't think that's the case at all. And I think that's why a lot of people look at, not only is it a bad thing, or maybe it's a stepping stone or whatever it is, and that you can't do both. I think that's absolutely not true. In fact, some of the biggest businesses that I know could be considered not-for-profit.
Paula, man, you brought up a very, very strong point. Like when it comes to Fir'aun, and okay, yeah, that's one example. That's on the deep end and on the one side of the spectrum. But one thing that I recently, thought of, and I was like, Paula, it's true. Look at Sulaiman alayhi salam. If you look in the Quran, what does Sulaiman alayhi salam do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala records that he made a dua, and this dua is that, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me a kingdom that no one before me and no one after me will ever have. Like, does that sound like someone who's just, begging or saying money is haram? He's saying, I can handle the pressure. I know I will use this power for good. Because if you can, like you mentioned, Masha Brother Safeer, if you amplify, if you can help 1 million people, why not? Why limit yourself to just one, if you know how to handle it, I suppose. So is that the kind of the line of thinking that you're thinking of in terms of that? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's, I mean, look at the Prophet, right? He married one of the most successful women in Arabia at the time, right? Nobody's saying, money should be evil, or it shouldn't be. Like, yes, it should be your main thing, and that's what's going to make you successful in anything. It's what's going to make you successful in business, right? People think that money is the goal, but it should never be the goal. And that's what the most successful people that I know are saying. It should never be the goal. It should be the byproduct. And those are the type of people that are not only successful in business, they're also successful in life itself. And yes, there is a difference.
MashaAllah. Khair. So I'll take it back to you, Sister Wajiha, for a moment. And, based on your observations and things that you've seen around the youth, in particular with the nonprofit world. So this is one observation that you plucked out, saying that this is a stepping stone, and for whatever reason, people, they look at it not as a be-all, end-all, and they don't think of it as a worthwhile endeavor. It's something you put on a resume, but it's not something you wear proudly as a badge of honor that, hey, I'm part of this, that, and the other. What would you say, in your opinion, are some common pitfalls or traps that people who are in or thinking about the nonprofit world that you've seen and experienced, perhaps?
For sure, I'll get to that question. I just want to clarify one thing. I do want to say that people do look at it as something that they are proud of, and they love to be involved in nonprofit and charity. They love putting it on their resume, and it's a good thing that they are. It's a good thing to be a part of it. I just meant to say that it's not, they don't see themselves working in that sector for 10 years, for 15 years, but why not? Because the opportunities can be endless, as in any organization. Back to your question, what are some of the pitfalls and traps that people can step into? Like any other, it's like an organization, you have to go in with all eyes wide open, right? And you just have to, put your best foot forward. You have to be professional and show up. It's not, people can sometimes be a little bit, take it for granted, like, oh, it's a nonprofit. It's not, the work ethic is going to be easier than a competitive business world, but that's not the case at all. If anything, more than ever, because the kind of work that nonprofits and charities often do, the work ethic is kind of like through the roof sometimes. And that's something to watch out for as well, right? Sometimes people can burn out easily, or put their all in be all because, hey, I'm doing this for good work. I'm doing this for charity. So, I can put my all in all the time, but that's not the case. You have to kind of pace yourself. And it's just taking the middle ground in every route as it is.
MashaAllah, you brought up a huge point right there. I think the work ethic and the connotation associated with nonprofits, it's almost like you can not painting everyone with the same brush. However, maybe the general impression is you can quote like slack off a bit. Your website doesn't have to be that well designed. The quality of certain doesn't have to be that amazing, or maybe they wish they could, but they just don't have the funds to back it up, right? That's the key. I remember someone put it to me like this, is that some people want 5-star hotel service with a 2-star hotel budget, right? And so does that speak to, correct me if I'm wrong, is that speaking to what, in terms of the work ethic side of things, where it's a nonprofit, so it's not, we're not talking about the Fortune 500 companies. I can, take it easy, so to speak, or it's not worth that investment of time and energy if there's no, real end to it.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not so much like it's not worth it. It's not, but people, it doesn't, compared to the same level as if people were entering a Fortune 500 company, right? But I find like the pace is actually a lot faster at a nonprofit, having worked in both. And the pace is almost as similar to a startup culture, right? Where it's all hands on deck. It's people doing everything they can to get the job done. And that's something that people, and especially the youth, should be aware of when they get involved in a nonprofit, that it's not as easygoing as their perception might be, which could be wrong. It's just as fast paced as any startup company, if not more, because usually we are short staffed, usually we are understaffed, and we have all these projects that are helping people we want to get done, and the idea is to get it done in any way possible. So the key is to expect that like extra work, but also not burn yourself out.
Right. I see your point. Yeah. So it's not to take it easy. Like, it's not a free ride. You know what I mean? Nonprofit doesn't mean free, like literally, right? Subhanallah. So good point you brought up. Brother Safeer, if I could take it to you for a moment, it's like we're bouncing back and forth between business and nonprofit. So from the business side, let's just say someone is watching this and saying, you know what, Brother Safeer, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to rumble. I want to start a business up. And how do you determine a business that's worthwhile to pursue in terms of like, let's say they want to start their own kingdom or their own empire, so to speak, and they want to just run into it. Do you have a thought process? Do you have a litmus test in terms of, you got some boxes that you need to check off to say, is this something worthwhile to pursue? Like, keeping in mind, for instance, that money should be a byproduct, not the goal. Like, what would you say? So how do you determine a business that's worthwhile to pursue?
I think you just answered your own question right at the end there. The first thing is, you're right. Yeah. Look, the thing is that you can do literally anything and make money, right? There was an article in 2019, NASA will pay you $19,000 to literally lay in a bed for 2 months, right? Most people don't make that in a month, right? They don't make $19,000 every 2 months, right? You can make, but are you going to like it, right? Are you going to want to, like, you're going to get sick of laying down in bed for 2 months. You're going to be tired, just so they could study the, effects of weightlessness on your body, right? So to answer your question, like you said, if money's a byproduct, what's left? What are you doing in a business? If you really want to start a business, you should start off with something that really excites you. And I'm not talking about short-term excitement. I'm not talking about, I'm so excited, and then tomorrow you wake up and you're like, you don't want to do this. Something that you want to do, because business is not easy. It is very, very, very hard. And it takes a very specific kind of person for it to succeed. Every single day, you're going to have to wake up and you're going to remember that it didn't work last night. You're going to remember it didn't work the night before, but you're going to have to forget that, move forward, and work even harder the next day. And that cannot happen unless you have the experience, and that experience come from starting off where with something that excites you the most, right? Whether you're passionate about art, whether it's photography, whatever it is, something that excites you, keeps you excited, and something that you love doing. You can turn hobbies into a business. You can do whatever it is. If you're excited about photography, if you're excited about cars, automotive, whatever it is, you would be surprised in the money that I've seen people make and the businesses that they've done. There was a few years ago, there was a guy who sold potatoes on Shark Tank with googly eyes on them, and he made hundreds of thousands of dollars. It really, really does depend on what gets you excited, and then building that experience, and then moving forward and growing your business or your businesses, whatever it is that you want to move forward, because that's when you start gaining control.
Man, that googly-eyed potato idea, I don't know if that's inspired by Mr. Potato Head or who knows, or whatever that is. What was, like, just to satisfy that curiosity?
I think it was a message on a potato. They would, whatever you want, they would write on a potato, and they would email or mail it to whoever you wanted. And it did well for a while, right? But those guys were just goofing around, and they found it funny, and they were excited by it, right? They were excited by it, and they turned it into a business. So if you're excited by something, something gets you going, and you're like, you know what, I want to do this, and it's just funny or whatever. It really, because the biggest thing is consistency. Consistency is, they say that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? So that's because if you are consistent, constantly, and we all know the story of the turtle and the hare, right? If you are consistent, you will eventually get to success.
Right. I hear you loud and clear. Slow and steady wins the race, but it is what it is. So, Sister Wajiha, maybe do you want to chime in a little here in terms of the nonprofit world? How do you decide? Let's just say someone is like rolling up their sleeves and says, you know what? When you see all those commercials, you read the articles, the heartaches, the travesties that are going on in the world, and you're like, I want to be hands-on. I want to actually be on the floor in terms of making sure that everything works out and you're really doing your best in the nonprofit. How do you decide what nonprofit that you should go into? I mean, on the one side, like Brother Safeer is mentioning, whatever your heart and soul and passion, where that could lead you to, though, is like a big payoff, like those potato folks. But in the nonprofit world, can that be replicated? Is that the same? Like, if you have that drive, could it lead to burnout? Like, what do you make of that? Are there some boxes that you check off when it says, okay, I would rather spend my time and energy and effort into this particular nonprofit as opposed to this one? Or how do you decide?
Yeah, my recommendation to anyone would be my checklist of boxes would be a hierarchy. First, find something that you're passionate about, like Brother Safeer said, right? Like find a cause that you really care about that's going to motivate you to, keep working at it even when things aren't going well, because you feel passionately enough about it. And then my second advice would be to approach it as any other job. Or any other opportunity, right? Like take a look at the work they do, research them, see if you can align behind the values that they put out, the goals that they put out, and how they're doing it, right? There's so many, and alhamdulillah, mashallah, we have so many options within Canada as well, outside of Canada. There's so many organizations doing such good work. You can get involved in, environmentalism, you can get involved in advocacy, you can get involved in any cause that you care about. And there's a lot of organizations doing it for different niches as well. So find something that fits you, what you care about, what your cause is, and I'm sure you'll find something. And then see how the organization runs itself, right? I mean, the worst thing is when you find a cause you care about, you like the job and you think it's a good fit, but because it's not a good environment, it's not going to be a good fit, and then you're just not going to stay there long, right? So treat it as any other job opportunity, as any other opportunity where you go in to talk to the people, see what their practices are, and if you're comfortable with them.
I see. So in the traditional sense, in terms of like, just as you would go into a normal job interview for a certain salary, you just look at the nonprofit in a similar way, just making sure that you cross those T's, dot those I's in terms of making sure that everything works itself out and that it's a good fit. I remember, just a little thing off the side, I remember there was this one article I read which said after this one person conducted 10,000 interviews, 10,000 job interviews. And this person who wrote the article said after conducting these 10,000 interviews, the number one thing that determines success, you want to hear it? Do you want to hear that? After 10,000 interviews, yes, no, maybe
Go
so?
Go for it.
All right, awesome. All right, just want to make sure you get a little interest, build it up a little. So after 10,000 interviews, the number one thing that determines whether or not you're going to be successful in that job is the culture. If that culture aligns with your own. I'm not talking ethnicity. I mean work culture and your values. If the work culture, you don't fit into that, it doesn't matter if you're the highest paid, if you have the best resource, if you're the best salesperson on that or whatever. If it doesn't match, you're not gonna thrive. So it speaks to what you're saying. As soon as you mentioned that, I remember that article, 10,000. I was like, whoa, good to know from now on. Like in case whatever opportunities you pursue, really, really dig into the whole work culture and see if it aligns with your own personal values and beliefs. So great, mashallah. Now for today, I wanted to shift gears a little bit, want to try a little thing new, a little experimentation for you both. This is the first time Brother Safeer and Sister Wajiha were doing this on the show. We wanted to add a little zing to the zag, you know what I mean? Just to kind of spice things up a little. Mashallah, we've been talking a lot and a lot of great information's been put out there, a lot of food for thought. Now, we thought it'd be fun to have a little bit of a game. Are you two up for it? I need a little enthusiasm. Are you two up for a quick little game? Yes?
Yeah.
You're game for it? Awesome. So here's what this is. It's a spinner, right? Here's what we're going to do. Mashallah, Brother Safeer's, in the business side, Sister Wajiha is on the nonprofit side. In this case, just to kind of have a little bit of fun with this, we're going to spin this spinner, and whatever it lands on, you got to pretend that you're the owner of that, company or that industry, or let's say you have a nonprofit or a business, and your goal is to kind of make a little mini commercial about it. So, for example, just to put it out there, let's just say one of the options on that spinner is books. So you land on it, and you got to just, out of the blue, pretend that you're the owner of a book company, and you're trying to sell or try to promote and share this book company. And just make a little infomercial right here and there. It doesn't have to be very extravagant. Just want to see how you can do this. So are you two up for something like this?
Absolutely. My question.
Sister Wajiha, you're down?
Putting us on the spot here, but sure.
Yes, it's on purpose.
It
it's spontaneous. So who wants to go first? Sister Wajiha or Brother Safeer?
No, I want to know what we win, what Brother Safeer says.
All right, Brother Safeer, looks like you're the chosen one. All right, let's spin the wheel.
What do we win if whoever wins?
You win bragging rights. That's what you get. Here we go.
Always ask in business. All right, go ahead.
All right, let's see if we can spin the wheel, please and thank you. Yeah, here we go. All right, this is going to be something. What could it be? What could it be as this thing goes on? There's so many choices, and as we go through this, again, at the end of the day, you got to let loose a little. That's all. Take a deep breath. See what it could be. I mean, the suspense is building up. And let's see what it lands on. Here we go. We got, what does it say? You got?
Computers.
Yeah, right. So Brother Safeer is the owner of a computer company. All right, talk to us.
You want me to talk to you about computers? Well, yes, computers are everywhere where we are, right? We've come to a point where computers are no longer a choice. It's not a matter of, am I going to use my phone today? Am I going to use my laptop today? The world functions on computers. And the better of a computer you have, the better functionality you're going to have. The more you're going to be able to do with it. So when it comes to spending your money, where do you want to do it? Do you need a better phone? It all depends on in what sector you are, right? If you're the owner of a pet store and you want to make a little commercial for yourself or a website for yourself, then maybe you need a better computer. If you're on the phone all day, then maybe you need a phone, right? Whatever it is, we got it all in our store. Why don't you come down, take a look, and see which computer or which computer device is best for you.
MashaAllah, look at that. Go on down to Safeer's Computers. Holy cow, MashaAllah, look at that. See, on the fly. So that's a good way to put. That's it. Nice and fun. All right, Sister Wajiha, you're up next.
All right.
Let's spin this elusive wheel. I wonder what it could be. Now let's tackle this more from a non-profit. Let's just spice it up a little. Imagine that whatever it lands on is like a non-profit. Imagine you're looking at this. What could it be? I wonder what it could be. Here we go. Let's see. It takes us to rugs. Okay. You are now the owner of a rug company that's non-profit. So talk to us, Sister Wajiha. What's it all about?
Okay, well, rugs have been part of people's homes for a long, long time, and they identify us. You have Turkish rugs, you have Arabic rugs, you have, it's part of people's personality, and it makes your home more comforting. So our company, we have artisanal rugs from around the world. We're supporting local artists and rug weavers from different countries. So all your purchases go towards supporting their families, and we make sure that they're well fed, and we make sure they have a roof over their heads while also supporting a local art. So you can have something that's a little bit of heritage for your home in Canada.
Holy cow! I'm speechless. Both of you, patent it, write it down, trademark it. I'm telling you, Wajiha's rugs. I'm telling you, and as Muslims, subhanAllah, we didn't choose the rug life. The rug life
chose you.
MashaAllah, Sister Wajiha. Man, Mabruk, both of you. See, on the fly, look at that. But phenomenal. Like, you just kind of on the spot with the computers, with rugs, what have you. But at the end of the day, it's just, when you let loose, get creative, spontaneous, mashallah, you can, a lot of creative like things flow through that. So amazing. Thank you both for joining. Did you like that? I mean, curious. Yeah, a little fun there.
Exercise.
Yeah, a little mental gymnastics right there. But hey, you two, phenomenal. Now, circling back to the whole conversation of businesses and nonprofits, out of curiosity, let me take it to Sister Wajiha for a moment. What are some resources out there in terms of helping Muslim youth determine what's their best fit? I know we chatted a little bit about maybe the direction in terms of what to look for, what to check off. Are there like resources that you could point towards that really helped you out tremendously in terms of understanding the nonprofit sector? For example, I mean, are there any YouTube channels? Are there any books? Are there any articles? Is there a resource you can like point towards and say, yeah, you know what, this really helped me understand the whole nonprofit world really well? If so, what would it be? And what resources would you say are tremendously helpful?
In terms of resources out there, I think there's obviously quite a lot, and there's many books and many articles that you can browse to get an idea of what it's like to be in the nonprofit world. But stuff that's geared towards youth, I don't think there's a lot of that. I think we can do a better job of bringing an understanding of like nonprofit work and the charity sector to our youth, and showing them what that kind of work is all about. And I think one of the key ways we can do that is to be more involved with them at like a educational level, right? So I remember even when I was in university, I didn't see a lot of nonprofits at the job fairs. I didn't see a lot of nonprofits at like the info sessions and stuff. I think now there's a little bit more of that, but I think we can do a lot more to get youth involved from an early age and let them know like the opportunities available in this sector.
I see. So right now there's not like a central database or anything like that you can point towards and say, all right, you just go down this list and check it off.
There is but it's not geared towards youth, right? But there is like the government of Canada's like charity rating, and you can go and see all the charities in Canada and go. But it's like very extensive, and it's more like to kind of give an idea of like their work that they do, and it's for adults. It's not geared towards youth.
Understood. Oh, but like as a starting point for you to maybe make their way, would this be useful for them to take a look and gather and see information? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
If they can comb through it, then definitely go for
it. For sure. Yeah, it's good. Wonderful. So now, Brother Safeer, I have a two-part kind of question for you. The second part is the resources. Like, again, what are some aspiring, let's say Muslim entrepreneurs or people who want to be someone who wants to start their own business, their own empire? That's the second half. The first thing I think what a lot of people may or may not are aware of is, let's say, the dark side of the business world. And in particular, as you climb through the ladder of success, there are some people that maybe don't have your best interests at heart. You read biographies. I mean, you look at people, for instance, like the late Steve Jobs, and look at his journey, what he went through, how many people. I'm sure no successful entrepreneur has gotten to their high level without some sort of resistance or some nastiness. Even our Prophet ﷺ, not talking from the business side, Rasul ﷺ, he went through a lot. So to get to where, so for the first side, like, what would you say, could you shed some light on that part where, let's say, there are some people who are around you, we wish that we were living in a world filled with happiness and everyone's in good shape and everyone's singing kumbaya and everyone's rooting for you. But at the end of the day, there are some people, there are sharks in this tank. So could you shed light on that? And then what are some resources available that you could point to, please?
Absolutely. There's no better resource for the first part of your question. There's no better resource than experience, right? You're going to have to go through that. I believe that everybody has to do their time when it comes to business, when it comes to work, when it comes to life. Everybody has to do their time. Everybody has to go through that experience. There are going to be negative experiences, and some people might have it easier than others, but most of the time we're going to have to face negative experience in our own different ways. And the best way, yes, you can have mentors that can tell you, be careful of this, be careful of that. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that you can learn in school, and a lot of it is just common sense, and you just have to be reminded of it. But most of the time it's experience. Until you lose $100,000, $1 million, you will not realize the value of that. And until you go through a negative experience, until somebody rips you off, you'll be careful next time, and maybe you will be protected from a bigger loss in the future, right? There is no better experience. Yes, you can read up on books and read up on the way that people scam. There are whole shows like CBC Marketplace and stuff like that that you can watch on YouTube and see how people scam you and be aware of that and educate yourself on that. But there is no better teacher than experience, especially when it comes to business, because you're going to have to go through, obviously business is all about risk. You're going to have to take that risk, and getting ripped off is part of that risk. Somebody running away with your money, somebody taking all your business, somebody taking credit for your work. There are lots of entrepreneurs that I know that, even to date have not gained recognition for the work they've done. And big companies have come and just taken over, and not have they only made the money from their invention or their taking the credit as well, right? They've taken everything, and those guys get nothing. Just imagine if you created something for Google and Google took something from you and then they just removed you from Google, right? Where are you going to go? So it happens. That's part of life. And again, there's no better teacher than experience. The second part, resources. I mean, there are tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of books out there. There's so much stuff available now on the internet. Everybody's learning off YouTube. Most of the comments that I see on how-to tutorials is, I've learned more from YouTube than I did in my class. There's not only different content out there, but also different ways of learning out there. Different, everybody learns in their own way. Everybody also teaches in their own way, right? So if you don't understand one video, maybe you could watch the other. There is so much information out there. And if you're not finding it on the internet, you're just not looking hard enough, because in the day and age that we live in, there's no such thing as lack of information.
Right, I hear you loud and clear, Paul. So we're living in this golden information age where everything and anything that you could ever know about is at the palms of your hands, or it's at your fingertips. You can ask Dr. Google, Sheikh Google, what have you, Mufti Google, and everything you want is right there. So that's amazing. So is there a difference though between information and wisdom? Is there, because maybe you have all the knowledge, but you don't know how to apply it. What about
knowledge comes from books, and wisdom comes from experience. It's as simple as that.
Simple as that. I hear you loud and clear. Sister Wajiha, I mean, we're about to close soon, but I'd love to hear, let's just say, could you share a story in terms of what really made the nonprofit world speak to you, really brings it to life, just so that the viewers can get a sense of what it's all about, because sometimes when you read it on paper or you see a video, or it's one thing, but when you truly experience it yourself, it just speaks to things in a new way. Is there a particular moment in terms of while you're working in the nonprofit sector, let's say either directly or indirectly, that you were a part of, that really you're like, oh, I remember this. This is a really key moment for me that really made things special? If so, would you be open to sharing that?
Sure. Kind of put me on the spot there, but I can try to think of a couple examples. There's two that come to mind. One of the within the nonprofit organization itself, one of the things that always blows me away is how hard everybody works, right? And from the top level to the freshest volunteer that was just recruited yesterday. Everyone's just working really, really hard to make sure, our projects take off and, everything gets done, and because everyone knows what's at stake. And I sort of expected that coming in, but I didn't expect the level and the degree to which people are, committed to making sure things get done, and are, some of the stories we hear of people driving, hours just to make a delivery on time or whatever is mind blowing. But one of the things that really touched my heart and make me see like working in the sector or in any sector, like the way that people respond to the help that you give. So we come across a lot of stories of like our beneficiaries and the words that they have to say when they receive help. And it's what's always touching is that they're we live in a very comfortable life, and we can easily get frustrated and be like, oh, it's COVID and things are hard or whatever. But they will never. Hardly ever do I hear things of complaint from their tongue, right? They're always praising God. They're always saying, "Alhamdulillah, we have enough. Alhamdulillah, we got this. This is great. Like we're so happy. There's someone watching out for us." I never hear complaints from them, which is just so humbling, and it just like motivates you to keep pushing further.
MashaAllah, it's amazing to hear. So the attitude, that attitude of gratitude, I think really is prevalent from what you see. So that's amazing to hear and wonderful that really speaks to what it's all about. Brother Safeer, I'm throwing you on in the spotlight here. Is there a moment where you can share with one of your many adventures in terms of the business world that's really near and dear to your heart and really solidified the idea where you're saying, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put me on this planet to be in business. I know it now for a fact. This is why I do what I do. Is there something like that comes to mind?
If I had to pick a moment, we'd be here all day, all year. There's lots of times where even a pinch of success, will make you feel like you're, this is what you're meant to be. This is your calling. But there's lots of times where even a pinch of failure will make you feel, it all depends on what it is. I think one moment that I can absolutely remember is when I first transitioned into video. That's what I wanted to do. And I realized that I said, there's no way somebody's going to pay me to do this. Like, at least I didn't believe it. All right. And even when I did, I'm like, there's no way they're going to pay me this much. And eventually, as I remember one time looking back when I got my first big contract, I said, you have self-doubts. Everybody has self-doubts. And I said, no, alhamdulillah, I did it. I've always kind of believed it, that I'm kind of going to get there. But until you see that, until you see you even going throughout the project, until you see that, until you finish and you take it all in, my first big project, that was the first time I said, you know what, maybe I am meant to do this. And then it was one after the other, and alhamdulillah, we're here today. So that's what it is.
MashaAllah. It reminds me, I don't know if for any of the viewers, it reminds me of that Jim Carrey story. There's a famous Jim Carrey story. For those who don't know who Jim Carrey is, he's a comedian. And what he did was he wrote a check for himself. I believe it was $1 million. And he said that I'm gonna get this. And when that paycheck finally came, I think he was in Dumb and Dumber. That was the big first hit. That's what really solidified. So he had that belief. He knew it was gonna happen, but until you see it to believe it, that's when it really validates. So mashallah, that's amazing to hear that. I guess there's nothing like the first contract, that first big shot at success, that taste of success. I think that really speaks to it. So amazing. That's wonderful to hear, mashallah. Now, I hate to say it, I always say it, but all good things must come to an end. Man, mashallah, you two have been phenomenal. Even when I threw in that little spinner, you two just knocked it out of the park. So that's phenomenal for you both. But as always, I don't want to leave people hanging. I want to leave people with a beautiful gem of wisdom and advice from each of you. So, Sister Wajiha, let's start with you. Let's say there's a sister who's watching this or a brother who's watching this, and they felt inspired by your words. They felt inspired by what you said. They see the nonprofit world. They see the stories. You really do make a difference in that capacity. And it's very touching. Now, what would be the greatest piece of advice that you would give for someone who wants to continue and pursue in the nonprofit world?
Greatest piece of advice would probably just be, put yourself out there and don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask questions. I find everybody in the nonprofit world is very friendly, very open. Even if it's something like, how can I get involved? Or, I don't know how to do this. Do a little bit of research, and reach out to people, reach out to organizations, and you'll find someone that's very willing to help you and help you move into the nonprofit world if that's what you want.
Amazing. So don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. You never know. Ask and you shall
receive.
Exactly. That's it. And now we take it to Brother Safeer. MashaAllah, man. Wealth of knowledge, wealth of business experience. And for those Muslim youth who are watching this today, got inspired, they look at you and they're like, man, this brother, he's really made something out of himself. And it's very inspiring to see someone who not only says they're going to do it, but they actually do it. Let's just say someone is trying to venture off into the business world. It's not easy. It's not some pretty thing. It's got its moments, as they heard from today's show. What would you say if someone was to, if you were to look at someone in the eye and give them your greatest piece of advice in terms of someone who wants to venture off into the business world, what would it be?
That it gets better. That's what it is. There's going to be lots of times where you're going to feel like, oh my God, where am I? What am I doing? You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to doubt everything around you. It does get better, and it gets a lot better. It's really hard to wake up every day and say, I can do it. I can do it. You know what? Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So always think that you can. If you believe in yourself, even if others around you are putting you down or whatever the case may be, it does get better. As long as you don't give up, as long as you don't give up, you stay consistent, you wake up every day giving it your best, no matter how yesterday or the day before that went, it will get better, you will prevail, and you will be successful.
MashaAllah, man. Look at that. You got to put that on a bumper sticker. It will get better. Or maybe put better. Maybe that should be your new license plate, man. Better. That's it. Like better than yesterday. That's the key. MashaAllah, it should get better and better and better. And it will get better. With every dark cloud, there's a silver lining, and MashaAllah, all that beautiful stuff. Thank you, Brother Safeer. Thank you, Sister Wajiha. Your insights are truly, truly valued. Much, much appreciated. And I want to just talk to the viewers for just a quick second, if I may. MashaAllah, today was a fun day talking about this whole world of business and nonprofits. And with that, I mean, it depends on where you want to go. You see Brother Safeer on that side, you got Sister Wajiha on the other. They provided some insight, but at the end of the day, it's what you make of it. It's what you make of the whole situation. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever you embark upon is with the best of intentions, that you do your best and leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with that, it's been phenomenal. Thank you both so much for taking part of this, being a part of this show. And we hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever you embark upon, for those out there who are watching, stay tuned. Muslim Network TV, Wednesdays from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is your moment. This is your chance. You are what you make of yourself. And so with that, stay strong, stay safe, stay proud to be Muslims. This is your brother Muhammad Maxwell Hassan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.